I actually got messaged on Instagram asking about going on a dating program. Have you ever heard of Married at First Sight? And then I said, well, that's not really a dating program, is it? That's a little bit further. I'm a big believer in throwing yourself into sort of everything, and really any opportunity that comes your way, just pushing yourself into it, because you never know what's going to come from that. So I was like, do you know what? Let's run with it. Let's do it.
Right, dear podcast listener and podcast viewer this season, because we're on camera, I've got Adam Aveling on the other end of the Zoom call today. Super excited and delighted and honoured to get him, because I know he's a busy man. I thought a bit of backstory, and Adam will tell us who he is in a second.
Yeah.
But, well, in fact, mate, let me start with a quote from your website. So, and then you can take us into what you do. Loving the T-shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I've got my happy T-shirt.
Yeah, I've got T-shirt envy all of a sudden. On your website, which is why our philosophy at Art of Brilliance and yours is kind of the same. You say on your website, and I quote, "If I do my job correctly, this will be the last time you need to diet or have a coach."
Yeah.
Right? I'm super interested in that. But tell us about what you do, and then we'll come back to that quote. So backstory, mate.
Backstory. How deep do you want me to go?
Deep.
So basically, last year I was on a TV program, Married at First Sight, and that's kind of where everything has kind of come from, really. But I'm a lot more than that. I'm sort of like a personal trainer.
Hold on. Let me hang on. I didn't know that. So this is reality TV that's not real, not reality TV.
Well, no, it's 100% real, but the marriage part of it isn't maybe 100% real.
Okay, so before I talk about what you do now, how the heck you get on? What sorts of backstory to that, even? So
I actually got messaged on Instagram asking about going on a dating program. So I was like, what dating program is that? And they was like, oh, have you ever heard of Married at First Sight? And then I said, well, that's not really a dating program, is it? That's a little bit further. No. But I'm a big believer in throwing yourself into sort of everything, and really any opportunity that comes your way, just pushing yourself into it, because you never know what's going to come from that. So I was like, do you know what? Let's run with it. Let's do it. And then, it was a hell of a journey, and that
pushed you into the media limelight, basically, did it? It gave you a profile.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was actually really weird, and you'll probably resonate with this quite a lot. So a week before I got messaged about Married at First Sight, I did a vision board. One of the things that I put on the vision board, because I wanted to start my online coaching. So one of the things that I put on the vision board was start my online coaching program. And I knew like a way to do that, and a way to sort of get a little bit of traction online would be to potentially appear on TV. So I actually wrote appear on TV on there.
No way.
Because I'd been on a TV program, I think it was about a year and a half before, just a small one, because I'm a fitness person, so I posted a lot of content online. So obviously, sort of like casting people saw me with my top off, and then sort of like gave me a bit of a message.
So you were already in the fitness game anyway, but you wanted to go online. The online thing was the missing piece.
At the time I was an electrician, but I realised that I was unhappy, sort of unfulfilled in what I was doing. Also, sort of like some things had gone on. I was a little bit lonely, so that's one of the reasons that I did this vision board. And I drew on there like a picture, because I wanted to find a partner, I wanted to get a dog, I wanted to sort of settle down. And then I drew like the only picture that I put on the vision board, I drew a picture of me holding hands with a woman holding a dog. And then sort of, I kid you not, a week later, and this is like why I'm a big believer in law of attraction, setting your goals, like manifestation. A week later, I got messaged about Married at First Sight. Off the back of that, I launched sort of my online coaching. Like I'm now sort of with my partner who I met on the show. So everything sort of came true, and I actually think about it.
I don't want to be disparaging about electricians, but most electricians don't do vision boards. You know what I mean? They really don't.
Yeah.
So I think you were obviously into the subject way before you went to the telly, but it's so I can feel the energy. By the way, I love it doing this webinar with you. I can feel the energy, like whoop.
Yeah, that's literally what I am about, like energy. Like a lot of people come to me to lose weight now, but I before we get to sort of the weight loss, my first thing that I say to them is we need to focus on energy. If you're not energized, if you're not like we need to take the focus away from weight loss and go straight to
right. But come back to the quote then. Let's come back to the quote. Now we know what you do. So now you change people's lives. You like to think that we do as well, but like here, and you're the body mind connection. Back to the quote that we started. If I do my job correctly, this will be the last time you need to diet or have a coach. So what do you mean by that? Why?
Yeah, so I believe my job as an online coach, or sort of like helping people, isn't only to help them lose weight and like crash them into sort of like a diet, drain all their energy, give them low food. Yeah. It's more to sort of show them how to fit it into their lifestyle, how to fit it into their lifestyle, and how to make it the last time they're ever going to need a coach, the last time they're looking for another way to diet, because they actually have learned the fundamentals of how to do it, instead of just like following something and being like, and getting to the end of it and then like, oh, what do I do next? So my sort of whole goal is to sort of educate people on how to make it a lifestyle change instead of just losing weight.
I mean, how many people do I meet who've dieted for 40 years, mate? Yeah, dieted literally for 40 years. They've tried everything. But unless their underlying identity changes, unless their habits change, then they're always going to default back to the bad old version of them. But I think I had this thing. So I'm a doctor of happiness, mate, which is a bit weird, right? So
I've been watching your videos actually. I've been excited to talk to you and sort of pick your brains a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, fella. I mean, it's all fairly obvious stuff. Like what you do is fairly obvious. I mean, most people should know how to take care of themselves, but we're not doing it. We're not taking good care of ourselves. But I had this thing when I was doing because I'm not a naturally very clever academic person. All right, so I had to work really hard to get a PhD, and like super hard. And there was stats. So statistics, numbers are not my thing. I can write, but I can't. Numbers are rubbish. So I talked myself into getting really upset halfway through my research, going, I can remember coming home from Loughborough in tears to my wife, going, I'll never do this. I'm rubbish at numbers. I'm rubbish at stats. Right? Because I got it in my head that I can't do it. But then I had this kind of light bulb moment where I changed my identity away from somebody who will never be able to do it to somebody who is capable of getting good at statistics. Yeah. And seriously, mate, I know it sounds obvious, but as soon as I change that identity and what's going on in here and my view of myself as somebody who I am struggling right now, but I know that if I work hard enough, I will nail this, then it started to get easier. Yeah. And I did nail it, and I got my PhD. And I think this change of identity in your game, away from somebody who hates exercise into somebody who takes good care of their physical health. As soon as you change that identity, then exercise is the most natural thing in the world, because you are a kind of person who looks after, instead of being somebody who hates eating healthy food, somebody who eats good food most of the time. A simple change here gets you, everything comes easier when you change your identity. Yeah,
100%. I've done a couple of videos saying the exact same thing. Cool. I started the year this year with all my clients, and we did a webinar. And one of the things that I said to them was we need to change self-limiting beliefs, like a belief that we hold on ourselves that isn't necessarily true. But the fact we've told ourselves that many times, like we actually start to believe it. For example, people who say sort of like, I like food too much to lose weight. That's not necessarily true. Everyone likes food, but that's a self-limiting belief. And I do it to myself. So I listen to books. I really enjoy listening to books. And I've got a self-limiting belief on myself that I haven't got the attention span to read a book. But that's not true, because if there's a book that I like, I have read books in the past, but it's a self-limiting belief. Yeah. And exactly like you say, if you literally, it's simple as changing your mindset, changing that like identity that we hold on ourselves that can sort of unlock it. Yeah.
I've become the kind of person who makes good choices around food.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that doesn't mean that I always eat. I mean, so I'm eating my blueberries today. Right? Occasionally, I will make a choice that fits the situation that isn't healthy. But generally speaking, I didn't used to be, I'm now a person who makes good choices around food.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, what does it take the effort away? I don't have to diet anymore, because I'm making good choices most of the time. So I'll eat what's good for me. And that's what I say. That's exactly what I say to people. Your diet, if you're trying to lose weight, your diet shouldn't really feel like a diet. Obviously, you'll have to tweak a few things. You'll have to maybe cut down on certain things, but it shouldn't feel like you're dieting. Like you can lose weight. You still feel full. Yeah. So right, that's the intake of food. What about exercise? And because I think sitting is the new smoking type thing, isn't it? They're all sitting there, sedentary jobs, zooming and on computers instead of, I don't know what, farming and whatever the old style jobs which were inherently physical jobs, weren't they?
Yes.
So what about exercise? Because you can eat all the right foods, but if we're not actually moving enough, are we?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Like you need to be sort of moving as well. And I put a post out yesterday talking on something very, very similar. Like exercise and training should be looked at. Well, training more than exercise, like going to the gym, lifting weights, things like that, should be looked at sort of like as a health benefit, like body composition, working the muscle. Like obviously you're going to burn calories, but if you sort of want to stay in shape, just being active in general, like just trying to get your steps up, trying to move a lot more. I know that my job now compared to when I was an electrician, like I could eat so much food when I was an electrician because I was literally on my feet, up and down ladders, carrying things all day. But now I sit on my laptop all day. So I need to try and make sure that I'm still moving as well. I still train and go to the gym, but in between that, I need to make sure that I'm moving. I noticed when I did make the change from being an electrician to working from sort of home by myself on a laptop, I did notice sort of I for the first time ever, I went through like a little patch of like anxiety. And I think that was one of the contributors to that, the fact that I just wasn't moving as much and not interacting as much as people. And I thought I was like, I've always been quite not macho, but like I've worked on building sites, been like a man's man. And I've always thought I was sort of bulletproof to that kind of thing. But as soon as I stopped moving as much, stopped interacting as much, that it hit me and I was like, I need to change something up a little bit here.
That's interesting. Yeah, but you're clever enough to change it, you see, and think we can get stuck in routines and habits and repetitive behaviors. I think sometimes we end up being really busy doing the wrong things. Actually, we're super busy doing the wrong things. I read it's in my head. I'm going to tell you. There's a Japanese. I'm just kind of trying to compile a book that takes words from around the world that I haven't got to direct English translation. There's this beautiful Japanese phrase, harahachibu, and harahachibu literally means you should stop eating just before you're full.
Yeah.
Right, which is contrary to how I was brought up, where you had to eat everything on your plate or you get no pudding.
Yeah.
Or you stop eating when it hurts, like that Christmas Day feeling. So what do you think? Stop eating just before you're full. Harahachibu. Does that hold any water? The aim is to, so you don't.
It's funny you asked that actually, because I was speaking to a client literally last night about this. So what I do, I give people meal plans to follow. I make sure the flexibility is there as well, but they tend to sort of get the structure in through the meal plans. And one of the guys messaged me last night. It was like, I'm doing my own thing with the meals on an evening. Like, how do I just eyeball food up? And I was like, probably the best way to see if you're getting enough in is to eat enough to sort of just fill yourself up. Like, because you're better off sort of filling yourself up from a meal, but never going past the point where like you're stuffed, you're bloated.
That's harahachibu, mate. That's it. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Start eating before you're absolutely stuffed, and you.
The Japanese are smart. Have you heard of the okugaki? Is it the okugaki?
Yes. Is that the thing about purpose or not?
Yeah, I think it's. I think it was in Ross Edgley, but he was speaking about it, and it's having it's training towards something. I think they do 100 marathons or 100-mile runs or something in 100 days. And it's something along those lines. And it's like having an okugaki in your life. So what's your purpose? Yeah, it is pretty much purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's also, they call them the blue zones, I think, where these places where people live to be 100 and more. So some of Sicily, Okinawa, one of the Japanese islands, where if you look at the population, they've got loads and loads of really seriously old people, like 110, 120-year-olds. It's that kind of thing. And one of the things is they have purpose.
Yeah.
They have this the purpose in life. They're connected socially, so they still eat with their families and all that kind of stuff. And they eat blueberries and healthy. So they've got all these really simple habits, and they move. So if you go to the Mediterranean, you see all these old people cycling around and walking around the village, don't you? Well, you don't see it in the UK. So they keep active even in their old age. So they're not necessarily doing weights in a gym, but they're walking around the village. They're walking around the town. They'll go walk into the shops and bring bring their shopping home. So I think there's loads of lessons you can learn there from these longevity communities where they live longer and they're happier, basically happier and older.
Yeah, I saw. Have you seen that series with Chris Hemsworth, Limitless?
No, I don't think so. Tell me.
So he basically explores ways in which people sort of try and live longer, live happier, live fuller. I think you'd absolutely love it. And they did tests on some 70-year-old cyclists, and they tested their immune systems, and they had the immune systems of 20-year-olds. And they basically said, "You don't." I'm going to butcher this. I know. I keep every time I try and say it, I say it wrong. You don't get old because you stop moving. You stop. No.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It always fries my head trying to say it.
You don't start moving because you get old. You get old because you stop moving.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? That's the one. And it's so true. It's so true, isn't it? Actually, so true. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I read something as well. I think I might have covered it on somebody else's podcast, but I'll do it on my own. It's called the Jonah Complex, and I'm like fascinated by it because it's basically when you come out your mum's tum and you're born, you're one day old. If you think about it, you come into the world naked and screaming, which isn't a particularly great entrance. I'm hoping I don't go out naked and screaming. We all came in naked and screaming.
Something will have gone wrong there if that happens.
Yeah, the apocalypse. Yeah, but one day, everybody watching this or listen to this, and the one day old version of you, like he's like amazing. There's potential in a newborn child. Every 8 billion of us, when we came out of mum's tum's, the potential that, right? And then you get. I'm 56, right? So you get to an age. Quite often, you'll get to an age, and you'll look at your life, and you'll go, "What happened to all that potential?" And you don't sometimes quite live up to what you could have been at one day old. Now, the Jonah complex. So Jonah was a guy in the Bible and in the Quran, I think, he got swallowed by a whale, which is a bit of a backstory. But apparently, it was just a bad day, to be fair. But he's a very timid merchant, and God asked him to do some big thing. And Jonah just runs a market stall, right? So apparently, I wasn't there, but I'm guessing. But he said to God, "Well, you can't mean me, boss. I'm just like Jonah. I just run the market stall. I can't do this big thing you've asked me to do." So Jonah basically said no to whatever the thing was. And the Jonah complex, if you Google it, it's really interesting because the Jonah complex, basically, Jonah preferred to play small. He preferred the easy life. He preferred not to take any risks. And the Jonah complex alludes to the fact that living your best life or getting fit or being your best self, it's not that we can't do that. It's that we daren't do that. It's that we're a little bit scared. It's a really interesting thing. We're a little bit scared of our own awesomeness, right? If we were going to release our full awesomeness on the world, well, what will people think if I'm amazing? What if I try and be my best self? What if I fail? What if I set my goals and don't achieve them? So we talk ourselves out of doing all this amazing stuff because it's easier and safer to play small. And I had an audience this morning with a bunch of students in Nottingham. I said, why would you, when you've only got one go at life, why would you play small? Why would you aim to be an average student? Why would you aim to be an average fitness coach? Yeah. Why would you aim to be an average nurse or a bog standard teacher? Why wouldn't you, if you've only got one chance at this magnificent thing we call life, why wouldn't you really truly go for it?
Yeah.
And I think the Jonah complex is really interesting because it points to the fact it's safer and easier to not live your best life. Although we talk about it, but we're not prepared to do it.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a lot, and that people are more scared of actually achieving things than scared of failure sometimes, and that's why they don't do it. Because, and if you think about it, it does kind of make sense because it's quite comfortable just to stay as you are, isn't it? Like you're used to your own surroundings, you're used to normal things, but if you actually achieved what those huge goals might be, it might be a complete different world. And sometimes you just don't go for things because you're scared of actually achieving them.
Yeah. But I think that when you get to 95, you might have a few regrets with that. You know what I mean? I just think I'm suspecting a few regrets. Okay. So I think I land one more on you and then I'll let you crack on. I've got this thing now about, so for years, so I didn't always know what I know now in terms of positive psychology, right? I was just going through life, just being a normal person, and life was fine. My life now is, and I don't like to brag about it, but my life is extraordinary. I'm like, wow, I don't know quite how it's happened, but I'm the owner of an awesome life. And some people get upset about bragging about his life, right? I'm not bragging. I'm just saying.
I think going from just meeting you from like this, I think you've probably attracted that into your life from sort of the positivity that you're putting out, the energy that you put out, because positivity attracts positivity, doesn't it? If you say that you're like in an amazing place, you've put the work in to do that.
Well, I hope, hopefully. I mean, who knows? And I think you're probably on the same lines. But I think the old version of me, before I knew any of this, I always thought that self-care, because self-care is such a big issue now. Everybody's talking about self-care, self-care, self-care. I always thought self-care was looking after myself right now in this moment. So saying nice things to myself, being my best mate in my head, and trying to eat decent food and getting good sleep most of the time. And I would fail and fail and fail and fail. I'd eat the wrong stuff. I wouldn't get to bed on time, and I'd just break all the rules, right? So although I wanted to look after myself, then I realized I had this massive breakthrough about 4 or 5 years ago, where I realized that true self-care is about looking after myself right now in this moment, making good choices now, while also keeping an eye on the well-being of my future self, right? And Adam, that second piece has changed everything for me. So today's version of me today, I'm trying to look after myself right now today by eating the right food and getting a bit of exercise every day and getting to bed on time and not drinking too much alcohol. But I'm also looking out for the well-being of my future self. So I'm looking out for my well-being next week, next month, next year, and in 10 years. And that, having an eye today on my 10-year in the future self, again, makes the effort of having to go out for a run or the effort of having to eat healthy food. There is no effort because I genuinely want to feel good today. And I genuinely want to look after myself in 10 years' time. So therefore, the effort's gone. All the effort that I was putting in for 40 years, I was trying and failing. And now I'm not trying anymore because it makes perfect sense because I'm looking after my future self. I'm rabbiting. I'm rambling. Do you know what I'm talking about?
100%. There's a quote that always sticks out to me, and people say it as just like a throwaway comment. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. And I always say, why not be here for a good long time? Like, what is the point in like not having both? Like, you can have both if you want both.
But I can't think of a better ending to that, mate. Yeah. I just think it's not. I don't necessarily want to live to be 110. I don't want more years on my life, but I want more life in my years. And I think that's the same thing, isn't it? I want to be alive while I'm here, and I want to live it fully. And I think clearly you do as well, Alex. I can feel the energy. So fella, I mean, just massive thanks for squeezing in 20 minutes with me today.
Oh, that's all good. I've really enjoyed it. It's good chat.
People are going to love this podcast because they're going to feel your energy, mate. So. So thanks so much. Where can we find you? Give us a quick plug.
So I'm mainly on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active. But I am on TikTok. I'm on YouTube, which I need to up my game a little bit on. And I am bringing out my own sort of podcast as well. But I've got a 3-month-old baby, so that's kind of been put on the back burner a little bit. But I will get that done.
Mate, I'm delighted. The vision board actually works.
It does. It 100%. I've done it for 2023 as well. So we'll maybe come back in 2024 and see.
Okay, fella. All right. Okay, brilliant. All right. Well, till next time. Have a good one. See you.
Perfect. Thank you, Andy. Great chat. Bye. Speak soon.
Thanks for listening to the Art of Brilliance podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe and tell the world. A nice review would make our day. That's the very best way of getting like-minded people to tune into our very simple messages about happiness and human flourishing. If you've hated it, please keep quiet. Remember, the world has enough negativity already. Feel free to check out our training and the little shop of happiness at artofbrilliance.co.uk. Thanks again. See you next time for another amazing episode.